facing catastrophic climate change within their lifetime, are entering university and taking courses that will give them a corporate career when they finish, so that they can pay off the £50,000 worth of debt that they have, and you know that the solutions that they need in order to survive are not going to be provided by a new generation of bankers. We're also seeing London having its heart ripped out and turned into a kind of theme park, of which one of the novelties is now punk rock. It has become conformity in another uniform. It's meaningless and it's valueless. And I think if I just leave it there and then open it up to questions, then we'll probably get on a bit better. So yes.
Joe, what does your mum think of this?
My mum will be there on Saturday and she will give a statement. And I think we both see it as a platform to be able to talk about some of the home truths that need to be said. And I would just say this as well, I think punk rock was never meant to be nostalgic. It had an urgency and a vitality to it that needed to address the state of the nation as well as a whole generation's future at that time. But if you're going to take a trip down memory lane and start to get all nostalgic about it, then I think you ought to actually do that more truthfully and say that at the time, punk rock was hated by the establishment. It was feared, it was dangerous. The Sex Pistols, for example, were banned from the radio. You couldn't buy their records in the shops. They weren't allowed to play live around the country because the local councils would pull the live music licences from all the venues. And at the same time managed to make it to #1 in the charts, which was obviously a much bigger deal in those days than it is today. And what happened? There was no #1 that week. The chart started at #2.
But is your mother upset? Has she urged you not to do it?
No, she's not upset, and she hasn't urged me not to do it until the statement on Saturday.
Would you rather you buried it sustainably rather than burned it?
I don't know, we haven't discussed that.
What about the idea of auctioning it off and giving the money to charity to help, for instance, these people who are being told to swim back where they came from? Or
It's a very interesting point, and I think this also sort of comes to the nub of it to a large degree. Charity. So, what we have seen over the last 20, 30 years in this country is the destruction of the welfare state to such an extent that charities now need to fill that gap. There's a whole industry of charities and all kinds of gala events where people from the city go and try and outdo each other and bid on items they don't really want in order to look good in front of their mates. There are people on £250,000 a year working for charities that become kind of corporations. And I would also say this, that punk rock, as I was saying before, have been appropriated by all of these corporate brands, whether it's McDonald's or whoever. But where's all the money that they're making from those things? Are they giving that to charity? Does Louis Vuitton give part of its profits to the Benevolent Society for Old Punks? I mean, where's all that money going? So I've got to give my stuff to charity, have I? Where, they're taking punk. They don't even pay their taxes, these corporations. So this burning of this thing is not about, well, why don't you give it to charity? And I would have to just say, just to defend myself properly from that accusation and put things into perspective, that I got so pissed off with the way charities only give, I think they don't even have to give 10% of the money that you give them to the actual cause. I got so pissed off, I started my own charity. And I'd also say that the documentary that we're making about this whole process, we've already done the deal, and 80% of those profits are going to go and help London youth groups, climate change issues, and all the rest of it. So, I'm kind of cool with what we're doing in that regard. And on the other hand as well, I think you also have to ask yourself, who would buy this stuff? Who buys it? You can't put this stuff in a museum because most of the time what we're talking about is images that were considered so outrageous even at the time, you couldn't put them in there today. I mean, we're talking about hardcore fisting, gay sex, we're talking about paedophile images, swastikas, upside down crucifixes, Walt Disney characters having sex with each other. I ain't going to put that in a museum and take all the little kiddies round and go, well, you know, this is what punk rock was all about. It had a danger to it, and now what you have is a castration of that danger, and it's been packaged up in a nice little box that ticks the thing of London's theme park existence, just like beefeaters and Royal Guards and red telephone boxes that serve no purpose other than titillating the tourists. And punk rockers can join the queue, and if that's what it's going to be, then you should pay them, give them a uniform allowance, and pay them to titillate the tourists and do selfies with them. So, I don't know, I hope that answered your point.
So what's going to happen on Saturday?
We're gonna toast some, we're gonna light a few matches and we're gonna have a bonfire. I hope made some points that I think should be relevant to young people today. You know, I think it's fundamentally wrong that we now have whole armies of self-appointed experts that are picking apart every little piece of punk in order to set themselves up as some kind of authority on it, so that they can go and impart that information to a younger generation and try to pretend that it still has currency when it doesn't. And a lot of the young people I talk to are going, well, a lot of all these old people talking about how important this punk rock thing was and how important it is to our culture. Why? Why is it important? Why does it have any value left when it's a McDonald's marketing tool? It's not going to help young people solve the things they need to solve. And we need to wake up and stop pretending that somehow we're so alternative. And it isn't Britain great because, you know, it lets punk rockers put a pin through the Queen's nose and we all celebrate it. And how long is it going to be before they're selling those images on mugs at the Palace gift shop? I mean, as I said, this whole town is being turned into a bloody tourist attraction, theme park, where no one can afford to live anymore, where we're having social cleansing, and it's all going down the Swanee. And it's about time. I'm actually surprised that there's not more old punk rockers who haven't stood up and said enough is enough. But instead what you have is everyone holding their hands out for a bowl of gruel going, oh, can I have a bit of that? You know, well, I can go and tell you something about the places old punk rock bands used to play. Come on a little tour there. Oh, I can make a little book here and sell some of that and talk about how important it really was. And, you know, you should all learn this in school. It's not going to do any good. It doesn't have any currency left. And I think, you know, if you can't see that by the fact that you can have a never mind the bollocks credit card at 19% APR, then you're missing the point.
How did you come up with the 5 million? I mean, punk's famously, it's about scams, it's about how you present yourself, you know,
It's an interesting point, and I think this is part of it, is having a discussion about the difference between price and value. You know the price of everything. I was saying before, I mean, who would buy all this stuff? You know, if I wanted to sort of sell this stuff and use the money for something else, where would it end up? It wouldn't end up in the museums, that's what we've already discussed. Where it would end up is on walls in bankers' offices, in bankers' homes. That's not the fitting place for this stuff to end up. But in terms of value and price, you know, we know the price of every house, but we don't know the value of a home these days. It's subjective, isn't it? It's what someone's prepared to pay for it. We've had experts look at this stuff and value it anywhere between 5 and 10 million pounds. But that's assuming that there's a willing seller, which I'm not, and that there's a willing buyer, as in anything. And I think the real question is, why does this stuff have any value at all?
But isn't that part of the fun? If it ends up on the wall of a banker, isn't the joke on them? Doesn't really matter if you're giving the money to somebody that needs
I
it.
think it's just a kind of, it's about giving those sorts of people the opportunity for them to pretend that they're somehow alternative whilst working in an industry that's trying to kill everybody.
Joe, did you have any doubts about this? At any point did you think, hang on, this is an act of historical vandalism?
No, because I think that these items represent something that was very heroic, and I think this ending for them is an heroic act. We are recording it. They will be much more vital than any kind of, exhibition of, have you been to some of these exhibitions and had a look what they're trying to say? It's meaningless dross. It don't mean anything. This means something. This is asking people to actually consider what they think value is.
Don't you run the risk of becoming the thing that you're criticising?
I run lots of
The
risks,
rich
mate.
guy burning 5 million.
I run lots of risks. Right, the rich guy burning this. I heard it all. So I'm a posh cunt, whatever. I heard all the all the arrows. Do you know what I did? It's nothing compared to what it was like in the 1970s. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how you were hated, and what I can say really clearly is that living through that time and understanding how people react to things and who's for you and against you, and how people kind of change their mind, or how their views are formulated by propaganda and media. There's one thing for sure, and that is that punk rock gave me a huge amount of confidence in my own ability to create my way out of the situation, and without that I would never have been able to be successful in the things that I managed to be successful in. And people always, it's funny, isn't it? If you've got no money, right, and you're poor and you're on your arse, your opinions don't matter at all. As soon as you've got money, people say, oh, you're rich now, why should we listen to your opinion? So you can't win either way. All I can say is that in my life, things that I've managed to do that I've been successful at have been done by breaking the rules, not following them. Punk rock gave me the confidence to do that, and I'm very thankful for it.
Has any of the surviving members of the Pistols had anything to say, because it's been tied into the Anarchy UK?
I just saw some stupid comments from John Rotten on something, but otherwise no.
And what do you think about their legacy and how, especially he has carried on after the end of the band?
Well, as I said, punk rock was never meant to be nostalgic, and I don't think any of those bands thought that they were still going to be rocking on, like the Rolling Stones, 50 years later. This was something that was almost designed to self-destruct. That was the whole point of it. There were a lot of heroes at the time, but now, in the end, I have to say, I think once it did self-destruct and it just turned into the idea that to be a punk rocker you had to jump about, drink beer, swear and whatever else, that actually all you had left was a pose. There was no value in it. You weren't effective anymore. You weren't frightening. You weren't dangerous. And all you got left is a pose. And there's a lot of people who've been living off that ever since.
So what's punk today?
Punk today is a marketing tool used by corporations to sell people things they don't need.
That's not what I mean. What would be the equivalent to punk today?
There isn't an equivalent. That's why we need to burn this thing down and actually start from ground zero and think about what's some good solution, and instead of trying to convince young people that somehow this idea has still got currency for their situation, which it doesn't. You can't, the Museum of London was running workshops on how to be a punk. They had pieces of fake wall put up in this thing, and you gave people, you know, paint where you start graffiti. They're writing stick, Q. I mean, you know, this is ridiculous. You can't do that, you know.
Wouldn't you call Julian Assange punk?
I think he's the only punk rocker left in this town.
People have said that Brexit, Donald Trump, they're a kind of punk expression of overthrow the system. Just putting that out there. I'm not saying that Trump is a punk, I'm saying that
I think people are so fed up with the lying, criminal hypocrisy of the politicians that we have running the show, who in my lifetime has sold off every asset that this country ever owned, to the extent where a couple of years ago they were trying to sell off the bloody Lake District. Right? Now they've packaged up and want to privatise punk. You know, this now belongs to the cultural heritage of London, the bloody theme park, and that's what's going on. And yeah.
I think any of the young people that you'd say would be a movement, so it's not a nostalgia thing, it's a new movement. Do you think they'll give a shit, and does that upset you as well?
Do I think they'll
They'll give a shit about the fact that you're burning this and the fact that punk seem to have run out of steam
Well,
and
I
stopped?
mean, for a long time now, I mean, I've been working with some sort of youth groups in London, particularly a group called Fully Focused, that came together after the London riots that we had a few years ago, and were so fed up with being called feral youth and whatever, and everyone blaming it on them, that they actually went out and made a movie about it called Riot from Riot. And I've been working with them quite closely on this project and actually commissioned them to go and find solutions, which will also be a feature within the documentary. And those people have been really encouraged by what I'm doing, and actually are, for the first time, interested. They're not interested in going to a museum in London and learning how to be a punk. It's got no use to it.
One other thing, obviously, this is our cultural history, but it's also, you know, your personal life. Is there anything that you are keeping? Is there anything that means more to you?
Yeah. I'll be
What-
keeping a few things because they're just mementos of memories for me that I don't see any reason to burn. You
I
know?
thought you said you were against nostalgia.
I didn't say I'm against nostalgia. I said that that if you're going to talk about nostalgia, then you ought to tell the truth. I was saying that punk rock was never meant to be nostalgic. That doesn't mean that I don't have personal memories that are private to me. I'm not about to go and parade them all down the road and go, look at me, at my memories. No. I'm saying that if you're going to be nostalgic about that movement, then you better get it right, and let's not pretend that this was all some kind of joyous cultural movement that the establishment embraced and wanted to own. I mean, you know, the mayor of the London at the time, or the equivalent, the head of the GLA, the Greater London Authority, suggested that the best thing to do with punk rock was to dig a bloody great hole and bury everybody in it. And then today you have a situation with this Punk London celebration that's backed by bloody Bullingdon Boris. I mean, you know, I'm just saying, if you're going to talk about nostalgia, let's talk about the truth. Let's talk about the fact that, you know, people got beaten up and stabbed and cut up for being a punk rocker, or spat on or kicked in, or my parents shot being smashed up every weekend by Chelsea football fans, or anything, or what I was saying before. You know, you couldn't even hear this band on the radio, buy their record, see them play live. They made it to #1 in the charts, and then there was no #1 that week. It started at #2. You know, that's the extent of how much they didn't like us. And today they're playing God Save the Queen at the end of Newsnight. You know.
Was it easy to get a permission to burn? It's a public fire, and sometimes the cities are
We're not doing
cautious about it.
anything, we're not talking about permissions here, I'm afraid. This whole thing has been very difficult to do, and that's why we're doing it.
Where are you going to be doing it? So we know.
We have 3 locations in which to do it, and we're going to decide which one is best at the last minute. There's one in Brixton, one in Chelsea, and one in Cannes. And we're not letting anyone know until right at the last minute, I'm afraid. Which also has to do with permission.
So how much is 5 million? Memorabilia.
Sorry?
How much is 5 million? How much is it? How big is the kind of
Stack.
stack you burn?
Well, it's pretty big, and for that reason, we already had to start burning it a few weeks ago. And if you look on the social media feeds and stuff, you'll see some of the images there of what we already had to burn, because essentially it would take hours to burn in front of people, which would become boring. So we've already started, but there's a big stack of stuff.
And is there any way that you think, I know you think it's ridiculous that we're celebrating 40 years on from
40 years of
And
anarchy in the UK,
UK.
celebrated by the establishment, yeah.
Is there any way that you think this should be marked in a different way, or should it just not be mentioned at all?
I think if you're going to mark it, then you ought to be truthful about it. I don't think what it should be is castrated, sanitised, neutered and boxed up as a kind of, as a lie to sell to younger people and try and pretend that it's cool, and that version, that sanitised, harmless version is something that we should all now feel belongs to the culture of this nation. I just think it's ridiculous and a lie and a joke. Anybody else?
How would you define punk? What is punk?
That's an interesting question. I think, if you want to talk about it as a creative force to challenge the status quo and find solutions to an otherwise no future situation, then I don't think that in itself is the prerogative that belongs solely to punk. I think that has been apparent through many counterculture movements. I think if you want to talk about punk and the creativity that happened in the 1970s, having any currency today in challenging the status quo, then I think the answer is clearly no, it doesn't have any currency. So what is punk? It's something that was vital at a moment to create a change and to force the establishment to take notice of a generation that they weren't even concerned with. And it achieved that momentarily, and I think because of that momentary success, it's gone on to be something that's turned into myth. And I think it's about time that we actually exploded that myth and talked about some of the home truths. Okay? Anybody else? Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
You need 10 minutes with Joe. Yes. Shouts me so I know. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know about you. You're first on my list. You know about you as well.